What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nico Lion, also known as Shamari, or Shamari, also known as Nico Lion. So today we got our video is going to be how to start an online business in 2022, or just a normal business, right? We see that a lot of people these days are looking to make online businesses because traditional employment has led to a lot of layoffs, a lot of furloughs, and a lot of resignations. So a lot of people are looking to the internet to start online businesses, right? And it makes sense, because we know that the web and the internet has a lot of opportunities. You can reach millions of people as you optimize your website for that type of thing. Focus on actually starting the approach to creating a business and the approach to creating an online business, right? And so I want to just run my best tips by you that I've happened to curate over the years through blood, sweat, and tears, and relentless research and relentless execution as well. So I want to just run these things by you guys, and it's going to be a couple of talking points, so bear with me. I'm going to try to keep the video as short as possible. And so let's get started. All right, so first things first, organization. Organization is the first thing that you want to focus on in creating an online business or a regular business. Organization is just one of those things where, whether you might be one of those people that like to take notes on your phone or on a piece of paper or in some type of a book. Organization is just one of those things that a lot of videos I've noticed that talk about how to start a business or online business does not cover this fundamental principle, which is organization. And organization, like I said, is just one of those principal things that everybody has to master to really get their effectiveness as efficient as possible for what they're doing, no matter what the industry is, right? So organization should mean the same thing to everybody, though it may be done and executed in different ways, because everybody has different ways that they want to organize themselves. Like if you have your bedroom, you organize your cabinets, your closet a certain way, your clothes, your shoes, your boots, and another person might organize their boots and their shoes another way because they feel like it works better for their room or their apartment or house, right? So it just depends on the individual how you want to organize, but ultimately, organization is a principle. I stress it no more. I cannot stress it anymore. But organization is the principal thing to creating a business in 2022, or whether that's online or a regular business. So yeah, I would just say to end off that tip, you just want to organize as efficiently as possible. Organize to your liking so that it works for you. Don't try to organize the way that somebody else organizes. Organize the way you want to organize. And that's going to ultimately work out for your good. It's going to help you so that when you the reason for it is because as you get more into the depths of your business endeavor, where you start to have many different information coming into your head from all different directions, and you have to, manage it all, it starts to become very convoluted and overwhelming at times. If you don't organize yourself properly, it can become very overwhelming quickly. So the best way to avoid this is to focus on how to organize yourself, how efficiently as you like to do so. And that will alleviate the pressures of business becoming an overwhelming factor for you going forward. Right? So yeah, because when you first start your business, it's not going to be as difficult as far as keeping all the different parts moving in an organized manner, right? And knowing what those parts are and what they're responsible for and what you expect them to do. But like I said, as the depths of your business grows, you're going to have more pieces moving around in the big puzzle that is what you're trying to succeed in, what you're trying to bring your business to what your vision is. So as you get into the depths of this, you're going to have more pieces moving around, and you're going to want to make sure you have a grab or a hold on those pieces, so you know what all the pieces are doing. So you don't just have pieces falling out the sky like Mario Brothers or something, like whatever. But so yeah, so that's really what you want to do. All right. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to offer about organization, because this is really the first tip. That's why I made it the first tip, is because it's so important to be organized. If I have anything else to talk about it, I will come back to it later. All right, so number 2, building out a minimum viable business model, right? Which is, or a plan in your notes on your phone, or a black book, as I like to call, like the black leather book is where you keep like your confidential files or your confidential thoughts, where nobody else has access to. It's just you, your book, and yourself, right? Where you will store that minimum viable business model in that book or in some notes somewhere. And eventually, like I did, you can move this information to a computer, laptop or desktop, if that's what you prefer. And since this is more secure, and it won't get lost that way, you know what I'm saying? Because even though we come from a mostly traditional society where we write down things, we take notes, we store it in our little cabinets and folders, you know what I'm saying, like that. But what you ultimately want to do is not rely on that only because, God forbid, a fire happens in your apartment or your business office, or you get flooded, and it washes away everything, or it gets rained on. That's all your thoughts that you've thought long and hard about, gone in a matter of moments. Or maybe you just lost it. And then imagine you lose something you've been working on for three years, and you only had one source of backup for it. So yeah, it just makes sense to just back up these type of things, right? It just makes sense to back up your business model, right? All right, that's my opinion. And I think that you guys will agree with me on that, because why would you only have it in a physical way when you can have a digital way that you can store billions of files and billions of information on without having to second guess if it's going to get deleted or not? At least you have two options. You have the physical book or notes, and then you also have the computer. So why would you not use both, right? Common sense, right? I just think it's common sense. But ironically, a lot of people don't think like that. But I digress. I'm just trying to help. But yeah, so back to what I was saying, point number 2, to speculate a little more on that point. And if I'm going too fast, I apologize. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. You can always slow down the speed of the video if I'm going too fast, right? So yeah. So you build out a minimum viable business model, right? And that just means basically what you want to do is just capture your vision, your ultimate vision of what you want your business to be, right? What is the products that you're going to be targeting to use in that business? What is the services you're going to be thinking about using and offering, right? And also, what are your core values? What are your values of that business? What is the values that you want to bring to the market, to your audience, that they will know that this is your type of business. This is your unique approach to your business versus the next business that they have an option for, right? So when I say minimum viable business model, minimum means you don't have to have everything in order to get the business model down. You just need to have the vision. You need to have at least one product or service that you intend on offering, because that will enable you to understand where you're trying to target. You can't just say, "Oh, I want to create a name. I have a vision for this business, but I don't even know what product or service is going to be." That's too vague. It's too many things out there. You're not going to be able to target exactly what you're trying to target if you just name the business, or if you just say, "I have a vision for XYZ." You need to be a little more direct, a little more targeted with that. So the product and service will help you understand what industry or what market you're trying to really get into, because ultimately, whether it's coaching or shoes, apparel, or art, entertainment, or food and healthcare, or whatever, hospitality, catering, you need to know what industry or market you're trying to get into. So that will help you. That will even help you form your vision even more. Because your vision probably will start off as a very vague vision, or it may start off very complex, right? But it just depends how vague or complex it is. It doesn't matter how vague or complex it is, only it matters what product or service pertains to that vision so that they can mesh together, right? That's what you really need. The vision won't work without the product and service or the value offering, right? So, and I call this in my book, which I'll talk about later, it's called the VPS principle. With that being said, let's get to point number 3, which is to identify your value from your business, from your vision, identify your products or product. If you only intend on starting with one product, that's totally fine. Identify your services as well, and your approach for each. And this is called, as I coined myself, I created this acronym not too long ago when I wrote my first book. It's called the VPS principle. VPS principle, right? That stands for Value, Products, and Services Principle. So it goes by the adage that every business that has ever been created has to abide by the law of the VPS principle, meaning that they have to understand their value. They have to understand the product. They have to understand the services, right? Even back in the days when you had, weapons of war being like, a sword and spears, right? The person who created those swords and spears, ideally a blacksmith or a swordsmith, they couldn't just say, I have a vision for creating some type of war material. They had to understand what is the product that I'm making and what is the value that I'm offering to the market. The market, in that case, being soldiers and armies and platoons that needed these type of war materials to supplement their efforts. Like I was saying, their efforts, and because a swordsmith and a blacksmith, they would have to know, like, okay, I'm not making this sword just for any army. I'm making it for XYZ army, for the Queen's army, for the King's army, for Africa's army, for Japan's army. Maybe Japan's army and Africa's army only want different types of material used in their weapons. Maybe they don't want, silver used in their weapons, or maybe they want only steel swords only. And maybe they want some golden swords, who knows? But the idea is to make sure you understand who you're making whatever you're making it for. At least have a good understanding of who you're making it for. That way you will be more what's the word I'm looking for? You will be more identified on who you want to make things for, rather than just saying, I'm going to make XYZ for whoever. That's too broad. You need to bring it down a bit, because, although Amazon became the business to try to be everything to everybody, most businesses can't be everything to everybody. So you want to just try to be a lot of things maybe to some people, or maybe one thing to one people or a lot of people. So you got to bring it down a bit, basically, right? So like I said, and once you figure that VPS principle out, you be straight, you be good to go, as far as understanding about what kind of value you're bringing and what kind of products you're bringing, what kind of services you're bringing. Value is not only what the vision of the company is, the value can also be how you want to be presented, how you want to be recognized, how you want to show up to the world, how do you want the world to accept you or ultimately reject you? Not everybody's going to accept you, but those that do accept you, how do you want them to accept you? Even though people that reject you, how do you want them to acknowledge you, even if they don't accept you? So you have to understand these things, right? So number 5. Number 5, identify what are you skilled at or have always been good at. Identify your strengths and weaknesses, right? So you want to know, number 4, what are your strengths and weaknesses, right? What are you strong in, right? What have you been strong in since you were a young person? What have you always felt like you were great at or you're really strong in, right? And how could you apply that to some type of a product or service or value offering, right? That can be a skill, that can be an idealistic opinion that people can benefit off of, that can be some type of a teaching, it can be different things that you can potentially make money off of, that you can sell and offer to people. So it doesn't just have to be a product or service. That's why the VPS principle is called the VPS principle, because value is also something that you can sell. Value does not have to be a product or service. It can be other things as well. That's why you have coaches. They're not selling really a product or service. They are selling a service, but ultimately they're selling their value, which is like teaching, So value really encapsulates and puts under an umbrella many different things that a person can sell, rather than just a normal idea of a product or a service. Sell a product or service, but yeah. So identify your strengths and weaknesses. That's number 4. You have to identify your strengths and weaknesses. Your weaknesses, and also what are you weak at, right? What are the things that you're not as so strong in? What are the things that you have to become better at, right? What are the things that you wish that you can get better at doing, and that maybe you can learn how to do, or that you can be taught how to do, So yeah, your weaknesses, you need to understand what is your weaknesses, where you're strong at, and where you're weak at, right? So you need to understand what are you capable of learning that you may be weak in, that you can improve by just researching. And you'd be surprised how much research can actually help you to get more efficient at something that you are weak in. Like, let's say you're learning how to draw, for example. Not only practice will help you, and this can apply to different things, but the research will help you because you're going to have a better foundational understanding of everything that encompasses what you're trying to learn that you're weak in, so that you can become strong in. So you have to add research to identifying your strengths and weaknesses too. Even for the things that you're strong in, can you be stronger in them, right? How can you be stronger in them? Research and find out. Compare yourself. Don't compare yourself, but compare your current level to where you want to be. Yeah, don't compare yourself with other people. Don't do that. You can have an idea of other people's skill level and where they're at level wise, or whatever, but don't compare yourself like, oh, I'm not as good as XYZ, or Tom, Dick, and Jeremy, and Brandon, and whoever, Marcus and Stephanie. Focus on you and focus on yourself, right? Don't worry about everybody else. Worry about you, where you're at. How can you make your strengths and weaknesses mesh together and work together, not work against each other. You don't really want your weaknesses working against your strengths. They will at first, but you want to bring it to the point where your weaknesses, you understand them and you understand how to make them stronger so that they can come closer to the strengths. And now they're all working together, right? So yeah. Now, number 5, identify what you're willing to learn how to do that pertains to the vision that you have for your business minimum model, right? And in this identification, what of it will potentially generate money and customers and value for your market or your audience, right? So identify these things so that you will know what you're willing to learn how to do and what you're not willing to learn how to do. Because it's better, you don't want to think you have to learn everything. Like I said, you can't be everything to everybody. You also can't learn everything. You want to niche it down so you can only learn the most important things that you need to learn. And also the things that are not as important, but they will become important later. So you have these different variables, right? This is why I would say another top tip is research. Research, research, research. Become a research master. That's something that you're going to have to learn how to do, as well as organization. That's probably one of the two most important things that I've found, and since I've started my business, is researching and organization. And it's something that somebody can't teach you to research. You have to just understand how to be resourceful, right? Be resourceful. Not everybody's going to give you all the answers. Not everybody's going to show you how to do everything. You have to learn how to use that internet and that search engine and word of mouth, or if you have to, and whatever you need to find your information that you need to find. That is going to work for your vision. That is going to help you learn what you need to learn and figure out your yeses and your nos, your positives and your negatives, right? Boom. All right, so number 6, identify if you will be creating the product yourself or whether you'll be sourcing it, right? What do I mean by sourcing it? You know how you have drop shipping and, you have like fulfilled by Amazon, things like that, where you would source the product. For example, you would ship it to someone else. You didn't create the product, right? You also have sourcing the product, which is, let's say you have a hair boutique or a hair salon where you don't create the hair materials that you use in your clients yourself. You have to source those products from a supplier. Now, this can apply to a lot of different industries, whether, maybe you have, a clothing retail shop where you don't create the clothes yourself, like the material, the fabrics. You actually source those materials, those fabrics, and those different materials from somewhere else, like China, for example, or Japan or Africa, where you can't find something from that you want in China, you find it in Africa. So that's what sourcing a product is. You get it from somewhere else that you didn't create, but you use it, you turn it, flip it for your own business purposes, right? So that, and essentially, basically, you would be doing business with that supplier because without them, you cannot source your product, right? This is the same thing for a restaurant that has to source their ketchup, their barbecue sauce, their seasoning. They don't make all that stuff. They're doing business with the suppliers who are also doing business with the farmers. You know what I'm saying? Then the restaurant is the one who creates the recipe. So without the sourcing of the products, they cannot create the recipe. You see what I'm saying? So it's fundamental, right? And as far as creating a product, a lot of businesses create products. Like, let's say you write a book. You didn't source, you have to source out. Let's say you create a physical book. You have to source out the paper. If you're going to make a physical book, you're probably not going to do the printing yourself, right? So you have to source that service out. But you're creating the actual product. You're creating the intellectual property of what the viewer and the reader will read, right? So you have to make the differentiation between creating a product and sourcing a product, right? Because there's two different methodologies for both, two different approaches for both. And it's very important to understand that. Because some businesses will do better with products that they create, services that they create. Some businesses will also do better with services and products that they source and that they bring to the consumer. So it just depends on the differences of both, right? So know those two differences, number one. All right. So number 7, plan out your online presence. We live in an age of digital everything for the most part. It's still traditional largely. Like I have a business card, you have a digital business card nowadays, but you still have the traditional stuff. People still read newspapers, right? I read magazines, so I'm not over books. You never can take a book out of my hand and tell me don't read it. So focus on your online presence, creating an online presence. Nowadays, that's where most of your customers will be, is online. They will be on search engines like Google. They'll be on like Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Pinterest, for example. Those are like the main sites that I find a lot of customers hang out on, right? And YouTube, for example, right? So know where your customers are going to be at, right? Because that's where you're going to want to try to focus on creating your online presence. You need to have an online presence. It's a must, and it's a must in 2022. You have to create an online presence. People need to know and recognize your brand. They need to recognize your vision. When they see your logo, they need to recognize, what are they about? Who are they? What do they do? How can they help me? Or how can they satisfy one of my desires? How can they satisfy my needs? You know what I'm saying? Why are they important to me, or why are they not? So focus on creating an online presence. That's paramount in 2022. I cannot stress this enough. Focus on creating your brand identity and your image. How do you, like I said before, number one, I guess, or number two, sorry. You want to focus on creating how you want to be recognized by the public, by your customers, by your prospective customers. How do you want to be recognized and accepted, right? How do you want them to perceive you? How do you want to come across? You want to come across transparent and open, or you want to come across as a business like how Facebook used to be, where they were like, you couldn't really talk to anyone. You only used their product, but you really had no transparency with the people behind the product. So identify how you want to be perceived by the public, right? By the market. How you want to be perceived. You want to be perceived as a business that has the really amazing customer service where, hey, what's going on? People reach out to you. They want to know about your brand, know about your customer. Your products and whatever. And you're on the money. You're like, yo, what's going on? Like, hey, you guys, you're not just hiding behind the corporate image. You're not hiding behind being the CEO. You're here. You're present. Hey, customers, how you guys doing today? I would love to speak to you guys. I want to hear about your opinions. I want to know, how can we make our business better? And we want to hear your opinions. We're here. We're present. We're not just hiding behind the false image of being a corporate entity and have our heads bloated up like some balloon, thinking that we're all that. You want to be like that, or you want to be the business that customers feel like is like family, like who they can trust, you know what I'm saying? Who they can, or a friend, right? So identify, and also not just that, but also, the type of image you want to have, It goes down to your colors that you use, the type of advertising that you use, your voice, how you want to be heard. So all those different things, right? So it's like a personality, basically. And yeah, so like your logo, you definitely need stuff like that. You might not need it at first. You want to definitely focus on your vision first. And like I said in number two, and number one, organizing and figuring out your minimum viable business model. How are you gonna create the business? All those little jotting down of ideas, brainstorming, right? Of how you want your vision to come alive. That's why that's number one and number two. That's why they're up there in the hierarchy. They're important. Before you worry about your logo and your identity of your brand, your online presence, focus on the organization and creating that business model and writing it in a book or putting it on a computer or doing both. You can start in the book and you can transfer it to computer, whichever one we want to do. You will eventually need a website so that you can get get that in your plan as well, even though you don't need it at first, right? You need to have it eventually because, as I said, you need to focus on an online presence. This means social media, and it also means having a website and eventually maybe having an app. Those are the three core things these days: an app, website, social media, online presence. because your customers they're most likely going to find you through search engines and typing in whatever on YouTube or Google, because that's how basically the internet is like a link. The way the internet is made, it's like a link of different pages. So without the search engines, you wouldn't know how to find any pages. You wouldn't know XYZ website without searching it on Google or something like that. That's just how the website works. I mean, that's how the internet works. So that's the same way you find things and products and advice on search engines is the same way that your customers are going to find you. So you need to optimize your online presence to be found. That's basically what I wanted to say with that. So number 8, brainstorm how you would market and advertise these value offerings and products and services, and also what marketing platforms and channels would be ideal. So basically, you want to brainstorm how you would market and advertise the VPS principle for your business, right? Like, which is your products, value, and services. How are you going to market it? When you get to that point, this is after you've done your organization. This is after you created your business model, your minimum viable business model. Then you keep iterating on that business model that you first started with, and you eventually make it better and better and better until you get a strong foundation. So you're always improving that. Like I remember with my business model, we started with version 1. Now it's like at version 15, and we just keep adding versions, kind of like a game or a software, like a website. Versions, just have different versions, and that's the higher the version you get, the more improved you'll be, the more mature it'll be, the more professional it'll be, and the more compact it'll be, right? So focus on those core things first before you focus on how you're going to market and advertise these value offerings that you have, products, services, and value. Because first you need to understand your vision and all that first before you think about how you're going to market things. Because if you don't understand your vision, how are you going to understand how to market to the audience that you want to reach? You don't want to waste time marketing and wasting money marketing and brainstorming, doing that marketing until you understand the foundation for that marketing, right? And like I said, what marketing platforms and channels will you exist on that appeals to your customers? Where are they at? We talked about this in number 7, where we focus on your online presence, right? Where we talked about your customers ideally exist on, Instagram, LinkedIn. We talked about these different platforms where we understand that those platforms exist, right? Those social media platforms. But now we want to identify your niche, number 9, and your target audience, right? And your customers that you're targeting. Where are they located online? What are they using, right? Where are they? On these platforms that we talked about in number 7, or I believe it's 6, where we talked about the different platforms where you were creating your online presence at, right? So where you would market at. So we want to know, first of all, your niche and where you're going to be targeting your customers, right? And where do they exist at? So that's number 9, because it doesn't make sense to target a platform that your customers don't exist on. They don't go on there, So you have to make sure that you know where they're going to be. At least you have a good idea of where they're going to be, right? Boom. So number 10, in your business model, you need to answer a lot of key questions, namely how you plan to be a unique alternative to your competitors. You cannot be the same. I stress this enough. Even if you sell in the same category, there must be a difference that is enticing and desired or needed, or a solution to a problem to the customer or to the client. There must be a difference other than just a nice logo and web design or website. Basically, you have to have a difference in your value offering, period, right? So focus on these things. Answer these questions before you even start to get deep into your business model. You need to understand how are you going to be a unique option versus the other options out there? You don't have to reinvent the whole approach of businesses, how you become a business or what you're going to be selling, but you need to at least understand how you present yourself differently, basically. Number 11, don't be so worried about picking the wrong thing and then thinking you can't change down the line. Because I see a lot of businesses, they try to create their business and then they get stuck and then they're like, okay, we can't do anything. Oh my gosh, it's over. Everything is going to blow up. The sky is falling. So, no, man, you just need to know that you can change it midway of what you're working on. Like, it doesn't have to be set in stone. Just because you created that vision before doesn't mean that you can't change it down the line. But you don't want to get in the habit of changing that too often. That's why you need to take the time to create your foundation so that you have something to stand on, that you don't keep changing every second, because your customer's going to be like, he's always changing. We don't know what his business is. He's always changing all the time. So not that you can't change, but it should not be often. That shows that you don't have organization. That shows that you don't have like discipline and foresight. You know what I'm saying? So basically a pro tip I want to give is that you can always pivot, right? Down the line, you can pivot the approach of the business and the direction that you're going. You can pivot it, right? You don't have to just go straight and narrow. You can go a lot wobbly sometimes, because the road to success obviously usually is wobbly. It's not going to just be just straight. You're going to have ups and downs, right? Actually, you should set up your approach so that you can pivot and change direction or product type or target audience or at any time, right? Basically, try to have more than one egg in a basket direction wise, and don't fret if you feel like you need to pivot. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, don't get tied to one idea too strongly that you can't consider other ideas, right? You have to consider other ideas and always be thinking, and not always be thinking, but basically always have it in your mind to be open-minded, basically. Don't be closed-minded on just one thing that you came up with before in your minimum viable business model, basically. So you have that book, probably you wrote your notes down, you have your business model down, and you agreed to one vision that you're set on, but don't be afraid to iterate that vision going down the line, basically. Don't be afraid to pivot that vision, right? Number 11, invest in a black book of some sort. Remember we talked about in number 1, I believe, where we talked about organization, and number 2, where we talked about creating your business model and writing it down in some type of a book, right? And note taking. I would say invest in a black book that is confidential, like it's like a safe, like it's an allegory to like having a safe in a bank where nobody has access to. You only got the PIN code. You got the code that you say 5, 7, 9, 10, and that's where you go into. Nobody opens it up and looks in the book. You look in there. That's it. You're the boss of that book. That's where you write your chamber of secrets, your treasure map, right? To find your treasure, which is obviously money or success or whatever you're targeting for that makes success matter for you. Whether you're nonprofit or for profit, it depends on you. So invest in a black book, I would say, of some sort, to write down your key things of your business, right? And this will be like I said, like a safe. It would be like the golden castle of your business on a physical plane. While another great tip is to transfer this castle and foundation to your laptop, if you have one, or desktop, as we talked about in number 2, where we talked about transferring it to a digital plane, because you don't want to lose your assets just keeping it in the physical plane. But the physical plane is also important because it tangibilizes. It makes what you have tangible. It's not only existing in cyberspace. You want a tangible option where you can look at it physically with your eyes. Boom, it's right there. It exists. It's not just on a computer. But that's why I say both is very important. For obviously the reason of loss. Preventing loss and preventing destruction of your files and your notes, basically. Right? Number 13, discipline. You will need discipline and become used to doing research, as we talked about, and comparing things on the market with your idea, right? Or your concept or your brand to see if it's already out there or not, right? And if it's not out there, are similar things out there? And if so, can you make a more unique and innovative version of whatever the product or service is, right? Can you stand out in some way, shape, or form that would appeal to your target audience and customers? Mind you, it doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, right? It doesn't need to be completely original, though it can be. And if it can be, that's great too. So like I said, discipline. You're going to need discipline. You're going to need to grow some tough skin, because being an entrepreneur and business is not for everybody. But I do say in my book that everybody should create a business of some sort, or a product or service of some sort that they can own to themselves, that they can stand on their own 2 feet without relying on an employer, right? Without relying on a company, without relying on corporate America or corporate India, wherever you are, corporate China, right? You want to have your own stable foundation that, God forbid, the employers are firing everybody, they're laying off everybody. You have some way to survive in this new world we live in, which is largely going very self-employed and freelance. People are starting to look to work for themselves, because the trust that we had in corporate entities has been demolished for the most part, especially in my age group, in my late 20s, right? And even people in their 30s are saying the same thing. People in their 40s saying the same thing. So it's just a new way of thinking. We have to think for ourselves. We can't let the government think for us. You know what I'm saying? We got to think for ourselves. We got to become more logical thinkers, right? Yeah, so we got 2 more points to touch on. It's been a long video. I apologize for the length, but I wanted to touch on some things in depth and cover some things that I wish someone could have covered for me when I was coming up and learning this stuff. But, I'm happy to share my knowledge with you guys that I've accrued over the years, that I've accrued through research. And of course, God has helped me learn this stuff. And I want to give all praises to God first and foremost. He's a great God. So with that being said, 14. Number 14 is to check out my book. It's called At Lion of the Savannah Perspective, LOTSP. It's my first book, completely written from scratch. In 2019 and 2020, I started writing it. It was like an idea just came from God to write this book, to try to elevate people, to show them the way of financial freedom, of taking control of their life, of, creating the best plan of action for their life, as far as finances and self-improvement, business, and all those things like that, and reinventing their mind, basically, right? Because we were taught so many lies, and we want to be taught more truths now, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, my book, I'm going to advocate for it and say it's a great buy, but I want to let you guys be the judge of that. If you decide to buy it, that would be completely on you. But I would say, in addition to this video that I made, this book will be absolutely essential to help you on your journey with starting any kind of business. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of it is. Now, we know that not every business is possible to start with the amount of money you may have or opportunities you may have. But this is why in my book I stress to start with what you can start with, that you can then leverage what you started with to get where you're trying to go, right? So it's like building like Legos. You build one Lego, you build another Lego, then you stand on top of that Lego, then you stand on top of the other Lego, like that. So sometimes you have to build the foundation Lego first. Doesn't matter where it came from. It could come from a coffee shop, tea shop, clothing, hairstyle, hair products, doing the hair. Jeff Bezos started with selling books. I started with something that's creative, so start like that, right? Whether you start on YouTube, you get your business from making videos, however you do it. If you want to make a business, you're going to have to try different things to see what clicks, right? So my book, it'll be available for purchase in 2 weeks. I want to say 2 weeks from now. Today is June 4th, Saturday. It'll be available for purchase on my website, and also it'll be available for purchase on Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description for you guys to purchase the book. Also, if you read the book and get the book, make sure to leave a review. It will help me create more content for you guys like this. And number 15, lastly, but not lastly, when you're starting a business, always scan the industries and the markets you think that has a need or a desire or something that you're trying to solve a problem for something, rather than just doing what is in demand, right? So scan first. Don't just go with what everybody's saying. Oh, this is in demand, that's in demand. Scan for yourself first. Use your eyes, use your mind to scan everything. Use your research and skills that you're going to develop, because y'all awesome, y'all great, y'all cool, and y'all collected. You're going to get those researching skills that you might not have had before. Because I promise you, researching skills is going to take you to the sky like an eagle. You're going to fly on eagle's wings. You know what I'm saying? Don't just go with what is in demand that everybody is flocking to. I remember Warren Buffett, I heard him say in a video interview that, because he's known as a great investor, right? And one of his tips is, not that I ascribe to everybody's tips just because they got money, but I'm saying it was a great tip that he gave, right? Which is, like in the gold rush, for example, which we've had gold rushes in history where everybody found out there was gold in like California or something like that, or Africa. Everybody rushed there. That doesn't mean that that was the most productive and prosperous endeavor to go for. You might have had gold on one hand, but you might have had treasure on another hand. So don't just go where everybody's flocking, because the treasure can be where everybody's not flocking to. So scan always on your own merit. Don't just go with what everybody's saying. All right. But if you are doing something that many people do, like when you scan the industries and the markets, you do have to ensure that you approach it in different ways than just a logo, as we talked about. So make sure your approach is unique and it's at least original in some ways. You cannot be the same as someone else or some other business. You have to have, you can be similar to your competitor, offer similar things, but you cannot be the same. You have to give the customer, your clients, a specific reason why they should choose you, for whatever reason that is. It doesn't mean that clients can't choose two competitors at the same time. You know, people go to Walmart and go to Stop and Shop as well. It just means that maybe Walmart had what they were looking for that day, and Stop and Shop had what they were looking for on another day. So it doesn't mean that competitors cannot coexist, right? It just means, how are you going to differentiate how you exist? And that's all I want to say. I want to wrap up this video with that being said. It was your boy Shamari, Nico Lion, and Zionaya, my company. We're bringing to you a lot of heat, a lot of really great content we're going to be bringing to you over the next few months and going forward. I would love feedback on what kind of content you guys want to be made. You know, we're covering a lot of different things, not just business, but we're going to be covering self-improvement, some life coaching, how to curate a life of prosperity in different shapes and forms, how to create skills that will make you very valuable in today's society, and so much more. So I just want to let you guys know that these are the things that we're going to be offering with the utmost clarity and transparency to you guys, because I want you guys to succeed as much as I want myself to succeed. So, you know, that's one of my core values, is to want to see people make it, you know, just like I want to make it. I didn't have anybody really show me how to make it. I had to research, and that's why this content that I'm bringing to you guys has been working for me, and I can almost guarantee you, if you put it to work, it will work for you. And that's all I want to say. All right, peace.